This episode of the Polyhedron Collider Cast is sponsored by Kienda. Go to www.kienda.co.uk/Polyhedron Collider for a discount off your first order. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Polyhedron Collider Cast episode 164. I'm Steve Tudor.
I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm John Cage.
And I'm Rory Summers.
Good Lord. We have an interloper. Who let him in?
Yeah,
I thought we managed to get rid of him.
The floater's
Sid
back.
left the door.
Sid left the door open.
Sid left the door open, left the keys in it. It's a very Sid thing to do that
It's
as well.
a very Sid thing to do.
Yes. Welcome back, John.
Sid and I are, in fact, the same person. So if he's not here, then I can be here.
Yes, there's only 4 seats, you see. You have to wait. It's like dead man's shoes in his place.
That's it. I'm claiming it back.
Yep.
It was mine in the first place.
Sid, that's it. You're sacked.
You snooze, you lose, boy.
Indeed. Well, gentlemen, speaking of snoozing, because I actually had a nap during this event, rather disgracefully.
In this episode already?
I know, in this episode. And at Airecon last weekend. Well, I say last weekend, 10 days ago as we record this.
Don't break the illusion.
Sorry if I ruined the magic for everybody there. Yes, I was at Airecon up in Harrogate, as per the usual affair up in the Harrogate Convention Centre. Mid-April. No, March. What month are we in? Oh, I've lost track. March.
Still
that
March.
one. Mid-March. Still March, just. And it was ace, as usual. Really good, well-attended event in the other end of the Harrogate Convention Centre to where it used to be. So we're in the sort of...
So is it still in the Goth Dungeon?
It is in the Goth Rock Bar, yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
With the tubes at the top, and it looks like everything's about to sort of fall over at any moment. But it was very, very good. There have been some comments about the catering, which I can illuminate people on if they really, really want to, but I don't really want to drag it out any further because I'm sure Mr. Cook has probably heard enough feedback on that subject for now. But suffice to say, there were some changes in policy from the venue, and there were limited levels of external catering, and
Subpar.
it was yeah. Well, the external catering was fine. The convention catering was subpar, I would say, and slightly overpriced. And it was about 6 miles away from the actual halls.
Is that still technically convention catering if it's 6 miles away?
Well, it was a long walk. We had to go through up and down stairs and escalators and through up and down corridors and bits and bobs. It was still part of the convention centre, but it was literally the opposite corner to where we were.
Oh, bloody hell.
For various reasons.
Well, I mean, that does solve the problem of getting greasy food stains on your board game collection. Have the catering centre so far away that you've eaten it by the time you get back to your board game table.
Pretty
And
much,
your
yes.
body's absorbed all the grease by the time you've walked back as well.
Yeah, it's true. To be fair, it wasn't actually particularly greasy. There's got the pies, there was a pizza, that was a convention centre food. The external catering was more like poutine, which is very nice. And what else did they have? I said some Korean chickeny thing, although canoodle weren't there. Boo. No. Basically, the convention centre put its foot down and said you can't have external catering, and then my understanding is Airecon turned around and said, well, we kind of want some external catering because we had it before. Okay, fine, you can have some, but it has to run on electric because it's going to be inside. So people like Canoodle who run on gas can't be there. So That's why one of the reasons there was a limited number of external catering. There are others. If you want to go and read all about it, it's plastered all over the Airecon feed. It is a long and tortuous tale. Suffice to say, Mark and the team will be acting on the feedback, and I'm sure things will happen in the interim before next year. Other than that, it was good.
If the catering was that far away, does that put it about the same place that we used to do our podcast from at Airecon? Because that always seemed like it was like the other end of the convention centre.
It was further. That was halfway. Where we were was actually less than halfway, because we were sort of upstairs and turned right in a little room in the corner. You kind of go up the escalators, along a bit, down some stairs, down some more escalators, across the main sort of entrance hall to the Airecon Convention Centre, round some more corridors, across a car park, through some more doors, and then into a big room.
Don't go that way. Never go that way. Lead straight to the catering.
It was a long way, and I'm led to believe, allegedly, it was that hard to get to because there was a door broken because someone drove into it with a forklift truck, so they couldn't use the shortcut. I don't know if that's true. That was what I heard.
No, that sounds true. That's the kind of thing that would be true.
Yes, basically, they broke a fire door, so we couldn't go the quick way. Anyway, other than that, it was very good fun. The usual suspects were there. Hachette had a strong presence. Asmodee were there. There was kind of a small, I say small, it's actually quite big these days, exhibitors hall there. But it was mostly for gaming. So those of you who haven't been before, Airecon is a board gaming convention in the sense of strictly it is mostly for actually playing games, unlike Expo, which is essentially a sales pitch that's open to the public.
It's a board gaming convention by board gamers for board gamers.
Yes, pretty much. Yes. And it is jolly good fun. And this time I actually played quite a few games rather than my usual schmoozing session, which there was plenty of. But it was fun. I got to play some games I'd not played before, which is quite novel, actually, for these things. It's usually I take a big pile of games and insist that people play them, as everybody else does.
And then you play about 2 of them, right?
Exactly right, yes. But this time I played... I was invited, actually, by Sneaky Rascal Games prior to the event to play their demo of Restless Spirits, which is hitting Kickstarter later this year. It's a small, light card game affair where you are some kind of mystic and you are trying to trap and capture restless spirits through various means of drawing cards which represent kind of trinkets and resources, and each spirit needs a combination of these trinkets and resources, but you can play them in different orders. Some of them you can play sort of 2 at once, and first person to a number of captured spirits wins the game. It's quite straightforward, quite light. It's not the kind of game I usually go for, but it was functional. It's very beautiful. The artwork's lovely, really, really pretty. And I think if you do like that kind of game, it's probably worth looking for, because it was smooth, quick, easy to play. The iconography was very, very good. So if you do like kind of card games where you're up against each other and you're just want something quick, and it is only a 20-minute game, it's a really, really fast sort of game. So if you like something like that, you could even probably play it on a train or something like that, then you probably want to go and have a look at it. I don't know how much it's going to be, but I'm understanding it's going to be on Kickstarter at some point later this year. So that's Restless Spirits by Sneaky Rascal Games. I also played a game, what we will be talking about later in this podcast. I've been sworn to secrecy for at least 5 minutes.
Foreshadowing.
I know. But I also played...
You do know that we're going to put the name of that game in the show notes and on the image. So when anybody listens to this, it will show the picture of that game of the cover art, yeah?
Nobody reads anything anymore, Rory.
Okay, fair enough.
Or looks at the images. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I never actually look and see what the name of the title of the episode is. It just goes, plays next.
Exactly.
Right, okay,
done. It's all fine. The mystery is preserved.
Time you're doing all that artwork, Rory.
Yeah, okay.
Dear listeners, if any of you did actually spot it ahead of time, write in.
Let me know that I'm not being wasted here.
I play a couple of actually sort of smaller light games. So a game called Nikojima, which is a sort of Japanese themed game, although the theme is extremely loose.
Love the look of this one. This is the cats on the power lines, isn't it?
That's the one, yeah. So basically the idea is you're basically there's an island and it's just full of cats and you're trying to sort of route power around it. And the idea is that you've got sticks on strings and you're supposed to, there's essentially a little base, a circular base. It's split into 4 colours. You roll a couple of dice and they tell you where each end of these sticks needs to go. And
kind of like Twister.
A little bit, yeah, but with sticks and string. And there are 3 lengths of these sort of strings and sort of different lengths of these poles. And the idea is you're supposed to put these things down on the different sections without knocking everything else over. And if you get a little black, you draw a little cube out to tell you which colour of stick that you're supposed to put on, or string. And if you could draw a black cube, then you have to put a cat on one of these wires as well without knocking everything over. So it's a little bit like something like Rhino Hero Super Battle in that sense, that you've got to hang things on without knocking everything over, and the person who knocks everything over obviously loses. So it's pretty straightforward, fairly simple, quite pretty, well made, but again, it's a sort of dexterity game. So if you like that kind of thing, go for it. I had a full game.
A bit like Tinder Blocks.
Tinder Blocks is a lot bigger than Tinder Blocks.
I could see that, but
Yeah.
similar concept.
No,
Kind
John,
of. No.
it's like Twister.
Yeah.
but with sticks and strings.
Oh, right, okay.
It's the same,
playing-
but different.
So it's a bit like Tinder blocks then.
No. You don't
white
have any
hole.
tweezers for one.
Somebody
And you can
punch
be a
in.
proper dick, actually, in this, because there is a die that allows your opponent to choose the colour for you. So you just like, you said go green, which is opposite purple, and you can see all these cables going across the board. You go, well, you have to put them right across everything else without knocking everything else over or not touching anyone. So there is a little bit of dickishness about it. So it is kind of fun from that point of view.
Now, I do
but
like
again,
the look of this. I think
it's
this might be a
pretty.
good one to play with the kids. I think the
Yes,
kids might
very much
enjoy
so.
this one. It's like a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
family
they will.
weight game. Yeah.
Oh, totally, yeah. And it's only like 10 minutes long because you know,
Yeah.
someone's cack-handed enough to knock the whole lot over quickly enough. More meaty-wise, I played Inventions, which we are yet to talk about. This is the latest Lacerda prior to Speakeasy. But I've managed to play this at a 3-player now. So it's definitely better at a 3 than a 2. And I imagine it's probably better at a 4 than 3. So we shall see, because there's a bit more churn. But we'll play that once everybody else has had a chance to cry over it, literally, because it is quite hard. Pro tip as well, guys, don't try and teach this to Frank West and our friend Luke, who, after having 4 hours of sleep, because that was difficult. I'm not going to lie.
Did you have 4 hours of sleep, or they had 4 hours of sleep?
Kind of all of us, really.
Right, okay.
But mostly me.
Teaching a Lacerda game, 2 sleep-deprived people while you're sleep-deprived sounds like more difficult than the Lacerda game itself.
It took 2 hours to teach it and less time to play it.
Wow.
It was quicker to play it than it was to teach it.
Is that a bit like if you do decorating? You spend all the time doing the prep work, and then the actual decorating part's really easy.
Yes.
So all of that was an investment. Whereas you could have spent like 3 hours playing the game awfully, but had 15 minutes of, of prep.
It takes 15 minutes to explain the concept. Inventions is heavy. Anyway, I also managed to play Square One, which is kind of the sequel to Project L, if anyone's ever played that. So another kind of...
Okay, so what's the? I like Project L. So what's the
Yes.
difference between this and then Project L, Square One?
They're very similar, obviously. So the notion of putting things into black or white cards in a specific position is exactly the same. But everything in this is a square. It's just the shapes are different on the square, so they're sort of screen printed onto it. And the idea is that you have to fill up an entire row in one go. So like in one row, you could have, say, it would require a green shape and a yellow shape and a blue shape, for example. The concept's exactly the same. So you get a white one, it'll give you some more stuff. If you get a black one, it'll give you some points. So, but you have to fill up an entire row. So you have to have, like, say, 3 or 4 blocks in order to put them down first before you can move on to the next row. Okay. And the master move in this is you can fill an entire row across a number of cards. And if you fill more than one card, or finish more than one card in one go, you get bonus points as well. So Frank West, again, broke the game and decided to found a strategy that no one else had thought of, and he battered us by a factor of 2. It's a common theme of the weekend, I'm not going to lie. I played a few games with Frank, and he's quite good at games, it would turn out.
Mm-hmm.
Game designers are like that, though.
They are bastards.
They like see through the matrix to like
Yeah.
the underlying mechanics are like, so if I do this, 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 and this, checkmate. I haven't even had a turn yet.
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly how it was. Thing is, Frank's very good. I mean, listen to all the things, but all of his questions are definitely from a design-centric point of view. Why doesn't it do this? Shut up, Frank, and play the game. But it was great to see him. Actually, not in a work capacity. He was there just as a random punter, so it was really good to see Frank. Always is. We always have a good chat. And more heftily, I suppose, I played Black Orchestra, which I'd never played before. I'd heard of it, but I'd never played it. It turns out it's basically Nazi pandemic. So the idea is that you are.
No, I'm not going to make jokes about this one. Carry on.
It's mechanically similar to Pandemic in the sense that your players get a number of actions, and each action you can either move or interact or play a card or whatever it is. So it's that kind of idea, and you are you are ally sympathizers in a Nazi regime. So the idea is you're all plotting to kill Hitler. Good plan. But in order to do that, you need to gather sort of little resources which are on little locations. So you can move to a location, spend an action to turn it over to find out what it is, and spend an action to pick it up, etc., etc. You've all got a limited inventory, blah, 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 blah. Some cards you pick up allow you to perform a plot, and that plot will require certain resources. It needs Hitler to be in a specific location because they move around the map. There's a bunch of Hitler's sort of entourage is also on the map, so people like Rommel and Himmler and Goebbels, all that lot, and they all have different negative effects. So if you start your turn in, say, the same space with Goering, for example, you might lose a motivation, and your character needs a certain level of motivation in order to carry out a plot, because they're just kind of timid and then scary and then bored, and then they get motivated. Then they get reckless, which is quite hilarious, because they just go, "Okay, I'm going to kill him anyway." And there's a level of suspicion upon you all the way through the game, and if you get too much suspicion, you get lifted by the Gestapo and interrogated. Taken into a room with no windows, and you're never seen again, that kind of thing. It's surprisingly long game, actually, because, Pandemic's just a 45-minuter. Black Orchestra took us 3 hours. It's a long game. Ooh. Yeah, it's a lot heavier than Pandemic, to be fair. There's a lot more going on. So it doesn't feel like it outstays its welcome, but I think it probably could be quicker. But I did enjoy it.
Did it feel like 3 hours when you played it?
Not really. No, it didn't drag, but it was quite long. And there's 7 kind of acts to the game. Basically, it's 7 decks of cards. You just make your way through each deck of cards. And the idea is Hitler starts off pretty weak, and then in the middle of the game he gets a lot more military support, so it's a lot harder to kill. Then you've got to ride that bit out, and then you get towards the end where the military support phase, then you get another chance to kill him, or at least it's easier. Because the idea is you're rolling dice to try and get targets against him, and the number of targets you get needs to equal or exceed the amount of military support he's got. So it's a bit of a gamble, but there's ways you can reduce his support, ways you can increase your capacity, and that kind of thing. So it's a bit of a sort of a tug of war all the way through the game, except in the last deck of cards there is the Gestapo have found you and arrested you all, which is the card we drew. So we'd spent 3 hours and then lost. So it was
so it's a talisman.
I was going to say it was more like Call of Cthulhu, or what's it called?
Arkham Horror.
Arkham Horror, thank you, Steve. Yes, it was like that. You spend ages trying, getting somewhere slowly, and then all of a sudden the rug is pulled out from under your feet, you end up on your arse and you lose. It's great. But I'm led to believe there is an expansion or a reprint or something coming out on Kickstarter or GameFound or something in the very, very near future.
I have a funny feeling it might be now.
Yes. As we record this very podcast.
Or it's very soon, yeah.
I'm just looking at this on Board Game Geek, and I'm surprised this is another cracking game from 2016. Apparently, this has got a rating, it's 509 ranked overall.
That low?
That's
interesting, actually.
That's pretty good, anything, really.
It is.
And anything top 1000's good.
Anything
really,
top 1000 is good, except for
I did
Scouts.
enjoy it. I did enjoy it. Yeah, Scout's shite. But I actually made my feelings known on that game throughout the weekend. People kept inviting, "Do you want to play Scout, Andy?" No, I do not. I do not care for it. That might not be the exact phrase I used, but it was close enough.
It insists upon itself. So just to say, get Black Orchestra Resistance expansion and Valkyrie standalone game is on GameFound. However, by the time this podcast will go out, it will have finished.
Oh, damn.
However, it is on GameFound, and GameFound generally tends to have late pledges.
That's true, it does.
It's probably still going to have some late pledges available, I would have thought.
I am tempted to back it, I'm not going to lie, because I did enjoy it, and it's quite a good cooperative game. It's bloody hard, but it's quite good. Ooh. It's quite tense as well. I enjoyed it. It's nice.
That's for the standalone edition and the Resistance expansion, Valkyrie expansion? No, Valkyrie is the standalone new game. Resistance is the expansion, is $58.
That's not bad. What, for all three, or just for the base game and the expansion?
For all three, it's $100. That's base game, expansion, new game. That's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
In this day and age,
Indeed.
That's not bad at all.
I mean, you can buy Pandemic for £35, so that's not bad. Yeah, that's worth a poke, actually. I would recommend that game, actually, if you like that kind of sort of collaborative, let's all murder the bad guy kind of game. So yes, it was all generally very, very good. We did enjoy it. As I say, after 4 hours of sleep, because the hotel room was too hot and I just couldn't sleep at all. I might have had a few beers and got up in the middle of the night because I am a certain age, which didn't help.
So the hotel room was too hot. It wasn't to do with you metabolising alcohol all night.
There may have been a little column A and column B involved there, but yes. But yes, during the day, I snuck off for an hour nap the Saturday afternoon. Came back slightly invigorated for another few beers, of course.
Living the dream.
Of course.
Living the dream. But on that day, I was cajoled into a game of Galactic Cruise, which I'm led to believe Steve and Rory have already played. And I was taught by the very same person who taught you. Or at least tried to teach you and forgot half the rules.
Yeah.
And I was treated to a repeat performance, whereupon Dave taught me the rest of the rules.
Well, yes. So we actually were sent a copy of this from Dranda Games as well. So we have played this a few times now. In fact, I think if Rory had his way, we would have played nothing else for the last few weeks.
Yeah, I'd say we haven't played this enough yet.
Yeah. So
I agree, because I haven't played it at all yet. And it looks good.
It's perhaps giving our opinions away that I would say that Rory is rather smitten by this game.
Should we just go in headliners? This is my game of the year. I'm going to be surprised if anything tips this game off my list for December.
Wow.
It's going to have to be. It's going to have to be March. A very impressive game to knock Galactic Cruise off my
end of March.
End of March, and I'm putting in all of my flags on that post, or colours of ribbons on a tree, or whatever the expression is. Galactic Cruise is my game of the year for 2025.
Well,
I love that game, and I'm really annoyed that every time I play it, I'm like, I think I might just buy this. And Steve was like, you don't need to buy it, Rory. I've got a copy. Andy's got a copy. Who else are you going to play it with? And I'm like, I don't know. But not having it means I don't have the option to play it.
We might play it together, and I've got a copy. You better buy one, Rory. Just be done with it.
But let's.
Oh, I forgot we're having John Cage on the podcast. It's like he's like that little demon on his shoulder, going, "Go on, buy it. Go on, you've got the money.
Why not? You're worth it."
I'm with it. I deserve it. I deserve something good.
You do.
Go on, Steve, Andy. So tell us about a Galactic Cruise, and I'm going to chip in with applause every time you mention something really great about the game I love.
So, Galactic Cruise is a game about building and organising cruises. Now, although this is Galactic Cruise, it is a space theme. I must admit, you could write this about normal cruises, and the same rules would work. The game is quite simply build cruise ships, attract passengers, profit. And it boils down to that in its very simplest, but it's a much more complicated game. Now, complexity-wise, actually rules, I actually don't think it's too bad, as it's generally a worker placement game. But it's, tool artwork, and which means the board works beautifully. Everything is so easy to determine. But there are so many moving pieces that your brain will go, very often. Basic premise of the game is you have 6 worker placement spots on the board, but each one of those worker placement spots has 2 worker placement actions. Now, this is where the game gets really interesting. However, the worker placement spots can be linked by cogs. And if it's your cog, you can take the actions on the space linked to the space you've just gone to. Therefore, potentially leading to 6 possible actions available from 1 action space.
Actually, if it's somebody else's cog, you can pay them.
Yeah, I was about to get to that.
Sorry.
If someone else's cog, you can pay them to get there, and then how much you pay them is based on your influence, which means potentially you take 2 actions in the spot, you've got potentially 6 different actions you could take. And these are generally built around what I've said, build ship, attract customers, profit. So they are buying blueprints for your spaceship, building the sections of your spaceship, building your engines, your cockpit, booking or advertising cruises to potential customers, getting your cruise coordinator to actually get the customers onto your cruise ship, and then launching is actually its own separate action, which you have to go through T-5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with steps at each one, which is pretty cool because it means it's nice and easy to organise and remember. And then there's all kinds of things on top of that, like, for instance, for each cruise ship, you need oxygen, you need fuel, you need water.
You need food, yeah.
Food, not water. You need food.
You need lots of that.
Also, when you've got 3 different types of potential guests on your cruise, which means you've got 3 types of things your cruise guests like. So they're basically families, adventure seekers, and sophisticated people who like the arts.
Bourgeois passengers.
They were there for like relaxation or something it's called.
Yeah.
But yes. Now, we gave them a very, very different set of titles, which I am not going to repeat on this podcast.
So there's a lot of optimization going on about getting your cruise ship to match your customers and going to the destinations on your cruise ship to match those customers. To add even more complexity, there's 4 different upgrades which are random. You can change them every game, and you've got a bunch of cards you can play, which, although not a massive deck, is a pretty sizable deck which you can either use for the action, use for one of these resources, or you can cash in to do various other actions as a resource as well. So there's a lot of juggling to go in here. Oh, and you also have 2 other currencies to deal with, which is money and advertising. So you are constantly balancing effectively 6 different resources if you count the cards.
Yeah.
And then there is a really cool time limit. So I don't want to get too much into the rule, get bogged down too much by rules, but one of the really cool mechanisms of this game is you've got company objectives, which again can change every game. If you meet these company objectives, you put a cube into one of these slots, and there's 3 different slots it can go into, which represents progress in the game. Also, when you launch a ship, you put a cube in. And at the end of every one of these 3 phases, which basically happens when the cubes get filled in, you get scored based on how many cubes you've released from your company objectives and how many launches you've done effectively added together. Which means the game is a race, because that sets the pace of the entire game. After X many cubes have been placed, whether they be the company objectives or cruise ship launches, the game goes on to the next stage and carries on. Which means there's also this point when you get about 2/3 of the way through the game and you think, it's fine, 2/3 of the way through. The last third of the game seems to happen in about 5 minutes.
It really does.
Because you never can do anything you actually want to do in that last 5 minutes.
That's very true. I found that as well, because every fucker launches their ship, and all of a sudden 4 cubes go down into 6 spots. You're like, no!
I had loads of time, and now I've got none.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's exactly that.
You do have to keep an eye on what everybody else is doing. You go, actually, Steve's got both of his ships are in flight at the moment, so I know he's not going to put any cubes down anytime soon. Andy's got 1 ship in flight, but the other one isn't ready yet. The other one he hasn't got enough advertising. He can't get anyone on his ship. So if I go now, I can get 2 cubes out and stuff him over. And by the time Steve lands, there'll be nothing for him to do. And I've got a really short cruise to do, so I can fly off, do that, come back, and send it off again for round 3. Come on, in the bag.
Then you discover you haven't got enough advertising to get the people on your ship. You're like, oh shit!
No.
Someone else has just
love this
up
game. I just like this game. This game just resonates with me. I just get it, and I'm like, I don't. It's always tight. Have I got enough? But I plan ahead, and I feel like I've got a really good grasp on this. Because it's even the workers' placement stuff. It's like nothing's ever really blocked off to you, really, because you can bump other people's workers, but they get a little bonus. They get a little kickback, and those kickbacks can be so good. When someone kicks your worker back, that's exactly what I needed. We played it with Adam, and every now and then Adam would just send my worker back and be like, "That was the 2 advertising I needed for my next action for a miracle." For a miracle maneuver now. That's everything I needed. Thanks, Adam. And the look on their face when they realise, when you rub it in their face that they've just done you a huge favour.
It's hard not for them to realise when you're like that, Rory.
And then they go, can I take it back? No, you can't.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
You've just won me the game.
And the other thing which relates to a lot of what you've just been saying as well is what I didn't mention is the company objectives. They're like achievements. They'll be like gain 3 upgrades, have 4 ship components. But the problem is, as soon as someone gets them, the target goes up for the next person. So you could be there with 4 upgrades ready to go, or 4 ship parts ready to go, and then Andy goes and bags it, and now you're going to get 5, and you're like, well, that's just scuppered everything. Now I have to start again on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think they're really good as well, because I think those objectives give you like a narrative for the game. You go, I've got to do this, this, and this, and I've got to do the 3 of them ideally, and I kind of need to do them in this order. That's the way I look at it. So this is the most sensible order to do it. So that's my priority. This one is the hardest one to do. So I want to do that one first while the number is as low as possible. And that kind of gives me, or can give you, the thread of how you're going to do. But I just, this game is fantastic. My biggest gripe with this game, though, is the green player colour. Which is Steve always plays as green, right? But it's just a little bit too light. It's a little bit too light, and it just kind of disappears into the board a little bit. I need it to be a dark green. That's the only thing.
It's kind of greenish beige, isn't it? Really,
it is the beige version of green. You're right.
It is. It is.
Does it actually look beige to you, Andy?
Yes, actually, it does. It is a sort of, there's a slight tint of green. It's more like sort of very pale mint or something like that. It's a weird colour. It's, yes, Rory's right, I agree with him on this. It's a very strange choice of colour. I will admit, though, that the company objectives, and there's some discussion on this actually around the community, that they're not actually as important as you might think. There's a lot more points on offer other places. They're not worthless, but they're not game-winning.
Yes, they're not game-winning. In fact, some of the other things you can do can get you a lot of points. It just feels if you're going to get them, you need to get them before other people to screw other people over.
Oh, totally, yeah. Don't get me wrong. Rory's absolutely right. It is definitely a race to get them, and they can make a bit of a difference, but it's only sort of 2 or 3 points here or there. It's not a massive number of points when you can get a big rocket and that'll give you 25 at the end of the game.
Yeah,
so you're better off doing that.
A big well-built rocket, go into a planet full of people that want to go to that planet with a load of where you've been to that planet before, can score you so many points. We played it with Amanda, and she got like 25 points. I think literally 25 points for landing one ship on a planet. And then that was planet one of a 3-planet cruise. Bloody hell! What?
Yeah, because she did something we'd never tried before. So me and Roy had only played a few games with this, and there's an upgrade to get like your 4x4 ships, because you're limited to the size number of ships you can have a size. But there's one of the upgrade cards. One of the cards allows you to build a larger ship. So she just built the biggest ship she could, filled it with passengers, and even though there wasn't enough rooms in it, it just like I've just got 5 points for that. I've got 5 points for that. I've got 10 points for that. And we're like, What? This is your first cruise. We're getting 2 points for our first cruise. How are you getting 25?
Dave did something like that on his final score. He got something like about 50 or 60 points at his final score for his rockets. It was ridiculous. So yeah, there's a big points you can get if you get it right. But there's, as Steve says, there's a lot of moving parts. So actually lining all of this up takes a bit of skill. So it's very clever. And I am going to say something now that will stun you rigid. I agree with Rory. It's game of the year. It really is. It is phenomenal.
How do you know it's only March?
It doesn't. We just happen. Because we're professionals, John. We know what we're doing.
Pull the other one. I know I've been away from the podcast for a while, but come on.
It's really good. I mean, as Steve says, I do own it. I bought it at Airecon. In fact, I bought it. Was it on the Sunday morning? I bought the whole thing, full expansions, bling,
of course,
everything.
Obviously,
of course. It helped that Dranda gave me a discount, which was very nice of them. So thank you very much, Dranda. But it's worth it. It's brilliant. Really, really clever game. It all fits together really well. It doesn't feel like there's anything kind of hanging off the end. You know what I mean? Like when we played Weather Machine, we all questioned the workshopy bit and we thought, why is that there? It felt like it was slightly extraneous. I mean, to be fair, Vital did explain what his thinking was there, which is very good of him. But Galactic Cruise all seems to fit together really well. It hangs together well. There's a full thread through the game. There's even a bit in the manual that tells you actually the flow of the game, actually how to get through. You know, you start here, you get this, you get this, you get this is the theory of the game. Go around that loop about 3 or 4 times and Bob's your uncle. But it's extremely well designed, extremely well made. It looks like a Lacerda Eagle Griffin game, but it isn't.
Yeah. I do think, although Steve said that you could retheme this to be kind of normal cruise ships, but I think the theme and the mechanics work together really well. When you're teaching this game, when you're explaining this game, that's what you've got to get your designs, you've got to build your sections of your ship, you make sure you've got enough fuel and whatnot to launch your ship, then you launch, and then you've got to get passengers and get your cruise coordinator. It makes the teaching really straightforward because there is a narrative to your action flow for the game, and that's just brilliant. And you just follow it and just go for it. Wonderful.
The weird thing is, the rulebooks this is a very petty grievance I have with the game now, but I'm going to indulge it because it's the only thing I can gripe about, is that the rulebook's in the wrong order, because it starts talking about how your cruises work before it actually goes through the f***ing actions to actually build the ship. That's the only gripe I have about it.
Interesting, though, that's how I teach it, though. I teach the sending the cruise first and then work backwards.
Yeah, interesting. No, I don't do that.
Because I find it helps cement what you're trying to do, because in the end of the game you're trying to launch a
build
cruise
ships
ship,
to do this. The problem is you can't explain how any of it works unless you've done all the other stuff.
But it sets the scene, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sets the scene. This is what you need to do, and I'll come back to that and say, you need fuel. I'll tell you how to get fuel in a minute. That kind of thing.
I always think when you're teaching a game, it helps to start with, this is the aim of the game, this is how you win. You're trying to score points to do X.
Of course, yes.
And then but to do that, let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Which interesting discussion point is a good way to teach games. Could be a question for later on. But I do the same. Whenever I teach a game, I always start at the end. This is how the game ends. This is
what you're trying to do.
And this is what you're trying to do. And that's the first thing you talk about when you're explaining the game. But anyway, sorry, Steve, you were about to say.
Everything about this is really well put together. It's a good insert. I don't know what Andy thinks about insert of choice, but I mean
it's up there. I'm not going to lie.
It's up there.
Where have you been putting it?
There's one minor issue, which is the ship components. Oh, also the other thing, you get plastic inserts like you normally get. Like the players' inserts are rocket shaped, so you hand over a rocket to each player. But you've also got little cardboard boxes, not quite tuck boxes, but like boxes you can just easily take components out of for the ship components, for the rockets and the cockpits. But the actual crew compartments where your guests go, the box is ever so slightly too small.
Oh, you mean for the blueprints?
So for the blueprints. So when you first unpack it, you think, I've got too many blueprints because they don't fit in the box. And what you've got to do is you've got to try and squeeze it in to kind of stretch the cardboard box. Yes. And it's like the tiniest of gripes about the entire insert. But yeah, at first it's like, I've got too many. There's no way this extra one's supposed to fit in.
There are 48 and you can fit 47 of them in really, really easily. So what you have to do is you upend it on its end, press them down hard and slit the last one in. Yeah. And it does, you're right, it does stretch the cardboard just like little bits so they all fit in. But yes, I agree. And because I've got the 2 expansions as well, you do that 3 times because the others are alternative blueprints. But it does all fit together really, really well. The insert's good. And it has a little, booklet that tells you how to sort of put it all in the box correctly, which is nice. And it does survive being jostled around. So, nice.
No, was it footwell salad?
Not footwell salad. No. It survived a 3.5-hour drive home with
your driving, yeah.
Mostly Laura's, actually. I was asleep, but I was driving a little bit.
Right, so just to cover this game then, we all think it's really good. We all have really silly minor gripes with this game. Like we're really clutching at straws to say anything critical about it, aren't we? I don't like that shade of green.
It's like going through a code review and then you're like, yeah, but you spelt that word wrong. You're like, yeah, but it does the thing, right? Yeah, it solves the customer's problem. Yeah. We can ship it, right? No, you made a spelling mistake, so go correct it. Come on.
Wonderful game, absolutely wonderful game. I might just put my fingers in my ears and ignore Steve and buy it.
It looks very pretty. Where do you buy it from? I was just looking online.
Shop.
Hypothetically,
you can buy it directly from
out of stock.
It has just launched though. I think the UK release was at Airecon, so I don't know if retailers have it in right now.
Not that I could see, because certainly at Airecon anyway, and Dranda had their own stall, to be fair, but it wasn't for sale at either Firestorm, Games Law, Travelling Man, or the other one. It's
currently available at drandagames.co.uk/shop.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it is available for £100.
Exactly, yeah, on the nose.
Yep.
I imagine it'll be on sale at Expo.
I mean, they're missing a trick if they don't have stock at Expo.
Yeah.
I mean, they really
They'll
are.
fly off the shelves there.
Yeah. And I believe this is the designer's first game looking at BGG.
Oh, it's a solid start, I'm not going to lie.
I mean, we'll be keeping an eye on what they do next, I think.
Absolutely. Difficult second album.
Definitely.
Let's hope they can pull another one out of the bag. Really looking forward to that. Yeah, Galactic Cruise, wonderful game. The next game we're going to talk about is from Ravensburger, and this is Horrified Greek Monsters. So if you're familiar with why do you look puzzled, Steve? It's literally what's written on this.
I know, yeah, that's the worst segue ever. That really is.
I just thought, right, hang on, you want me to segue from Galactic Cruise to ancient Greek monsters? Hang on.
No, it's too late.
Well, in a Galactic Cruise, you're on a ship, and back in the day, there were quite a lot of ships, like Jason and the Argonauts. They were Greek.
Jesus
back in the day, they went around. Jason and the Argonauts went on ships to hunt monsters.
Someone else that went on a ship was Jason.
There you go. You see.
We could just skip it and just be like, and now for something completely different.
Yeah, this is
you
what I was
can
going
make
for.
A shit segue.
Right, no segue. We're going to talk about Horrified Greek Monsters from Ravensburger. So this is... Right, because everybody listening to this has seen the picture on the cover art anyway, so it's all right.
Which we have established no one looks at.
Well, not yet. We're waiting to see if any listeners write in.
Anyway, until the next episode.
So this is a co-op game. It's just like Horrified, except this time it is set in ancient Greece. So you're going to be fighting things like the Minotaur, the Medusa, the cockatrice, sirens, harpies.
Skeletons that come from acorns.
No skeletons that comes from dragon teeth. Anyway,
Sorry, yeah.
and Cerberus. So
Kerberos,
just like horror.
Actually.
Cerberus, of course.
Kerberos.
Kerberos.
Kerberos, yes. Kerberos is a lovely, lovely huggy dog with 3 heads.
Right, hang on, right. I didn't interrupt you guys nearly as much when you're talking about games.
That's because we talk sense.
Yeah, they were getting it right.
Yeah.
For once.
So much like Horrified and its predecessors, you are going to be travelling around the map in a co-op fashion using your special ability if you've got one. Move into a location, pick up some tokens. You're going to use those tokens to ward off the bad guys and try and solve their puzzles. Each bad guy, each monster has a different puzzle, which requires a different assortment of tokens or different values of tokens, or you've got to go to a different location to do stuff. You've got to chase them around the map. So you've got to move the Medusa to certain statue areas to kill her. One of the things that this game introduces is the layers. So certain monsters, so the Minotaur has a labyrinth. So you have to assemble the labyrinth piece by piece and put it together as kind of a jigsaw puzzle. But trying to put together a circular labyrinth jigsaw puzzle when everything looks very similar is quite tricky. So you have to build it and potentially move it around, solving the labyrinth before you can then go and kill the Minotaur. This game does exactly what it says on the tin. If you've played the original Horrified, the Universal Monsters Horrified, this does a lot of what the original one does. It introduces, new monsters, new minis, some new puzzles. It introduces the layers, which is really cool. The artwork is bright, it's vibrant, it pops, it's really nice. It's actually moving off to the new model. Sorry, Steve, were you about to say something there, mate?
I was about to say some of the artwork is a bit weird, though.
Some of the artwork is a little bit weird.
Well, because you said it's based in ancient Greece, which we would assume.
Yeah.
Yet the characters are all dressed like they've come from modern day.
Yeah, you've got the hoplite, which looks like, I think it's the hoplite, which looks like a...
Yeah, the
hoplite, which is a hoplite, which is a 1970s punk rocker this one.
It's also a type of soldier from ancient Greece, but yes.
Yeah. No, but
punk rockers?
Yes.
I'm getting very confused.
Or is that the Goths? No, that's ancient Rome. Sorry.
Yeah. And the sailor looks like he's just stepped out of the a reject from the village people. It's some of the artwork is a little bit odd, but it is really vibrant. It's really poppy.
Is it trying to go for the same kind of idea that Lords of Hellas went for, that's set in ancient Greece and is kind of modern, but not?
No, it's kind of mixed up because they're the only bits of it which are kind of modernish.
Oh, okay.
The rest of it is like proper ancient Greece and similar artwork. It's almost there's probably like a sentence in the rule book that says you've all been transported back in time,
or
something like that.
Forward. Yeah, okay.
A little bit dark.
Oh, yes, that's a hoplite. Yes,
hoplite. Which
Yeah, but hoplite.
it's got a hell of a haircut.
Yeah.
And a leather jacket.
I can see your
with
point.
studs.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's weird.
Whereas the actor,
Neil from
you
the young
can't see
ones,
that's
right?
terrible. No, these are
Neil
too
from the
dark.
young ones, yes. So remind this, because I have played Horrified, but it's a long time ago. This is basically just Pandemic in a different coat, isn't it?
I would say it's actually, although it's that kind of game, I would say there's enough different to it to be in Pandemic. Yes, you've got to do a lot of, I'll get to X, do Y, and hand you Z. But it's rather than trading cards, which are in your hand, you're moving to places and picking up resources, of which there are different colours of resource. And you need to get them to different places. But you've also got people, civilians, basically walking around the map, and you've got to try and get them home before they
You're going to rescue them, yeah. So, I mean, you do, in terms of there's 4 of us playing, I'll take my go, I'll do 5 actions, bad guys activate, you'll take your go, bad guys activate. Yes. So it has that similarity to Pandemic, but it is, I think Steve got a nail on the head there, it is pick up and deliver. You're going to a location, picking some stuff up, and you'll use that stuff for various different things. Now, I did say this is part of the new order of Horrified, and it's the kind of thing that I think Ravensburger might be kicking themselves on. Universal Monsters was its own thing. Then they did American Monsters, which was its other own thing. Greek Monsters is the new age where you can actually combine games from Greek Monsters onwards. So they've got Horrified World, I think, which has a Cthulhu element. And the next one, which is Dungeons and Dragons, you can actually mix and match heroes, tokens, and monsters from all of them.
Oh.
Because they've made all the tokens that you collect more universal, so it's just colours and numbers, but they've scaled them differently, so it's actually not backwards compatible, but it will be forwards compatible, and I think that's really quite cool. Because like D&D isn't exactly a million miles away from an ancient Greece setting. Cthulhu would work quite nicely in that as well. You're dealing with...
So the one you're talking about is World of Monsters, which is including the Sphinx, the Yeti, the Gianshiki, which I've never heard of before, and Great Cthulhu, of course.
Nice. So here's a question for you, Mr. Tudor. Given your documented hatred of pick up and deliver games, did you enjoy it? Yeah, I thought you might say that.
I mean, you're right. I'm going into this game with a disadvantage, and at the end of the day, it's a pick up and deliver game, and I'm not a fan of them. And it didn't do anything to kind of make me go, "Yay, it's pick up and deliver." I mean, the co-op element of it is good. One thing is both really good and frustrating about the Horrified series is because each monster works differently. What you have to do is different. So, like you're talking about, like Minotaur's Labyrinth is a really cool thing because you build the pieces, but then you've got to spend action to maneuver them and actually join them up the right way. But if you break it down to too much, it's still about picking up the blue tokens and moving them to the blue space.
Yeah.
Which, does break the immersion a little bit when I kind of look at it that way. So it's a game I'll play when other people are happy to play, but I'm not.
And you would not seek it out.
It's not when you pick off the shelf.
I personally would not seek it out. Yeah. No. As I said, it's a nice, light, family-friendly co-op game, and then we joke and say it's pandemic-y, but it's in that same vein. It's in that same co-op vein. Yeah. Rules-wise, there's next to no rules to it.
No overhead.
5 actions. Pick up some pieces, drop them off. I mean, the only rules to go through are explaining what each of the monsters do. So, and that changes from game to game and difficulty to difficulty.
Yeah, so to make the game more difficult, you have more monsters, so you've got more things to do in the same amount of time. I quite enjoyed the Horrified games. They are, like I say, they are light, but it's the type of thing I used to play. Right, we're gonna have a night in. We don't want to play anything big and heavy. We're just going to open a bottle of wine, put some music on, and we're just going to play this, and we're going to play it a few times. Cool. And, each game would take 45 minutes, and you'd set it up, you'd play it and go, and you'd win. You'd be like, right, cool, let's try it with 4 monsters now. And you win again, or you lose, and you go, right, and you just go, right, now let's try it with 5. And you just kind of up that challenge, and it's just nice, light fun. And I think that's what it does, and it does it really well.
making them interconnectable as well is actually going to be really useful for it, because then you can pick which monsters you actually like playing against. Yeah, because I was quite surprised when you said you couldn't mix and match Horrified and the Horrified American monsters, but I suppose that's because they're very thematic, weren't they? Like when you were fighting Dracula in the first game, you were trying to pick up like holy water and crosses and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you've just a bat.
Yeah, and they've changed the scale of all of them. Like they've all got a value. So I think when they did Horrified, everything was just 1, 2, 3, and 4, and now the scale is a lot broader for those numbers.
Right. Okay.
So you've got a bigger, and because they've made those scales broader, you then can't play it with the older ones.
Right.
That kind of makes sense. Although you think that they could like include a scaling table or something that maps it across, maybe. I don't know.
I think it might.
That's a very software engineer solution, isn't it? Not provide some other tokens. No, we'll have a cross-reference table.
Cross-referenced. I think the easiest solution it would be to.
It was a pragmatic solution. The customers hate it, but sod it. That's shit.
Horrified Second Edition. If they did Horrified Second Edition and scaled it up, and
I think that's
American Monsters
scale
waiting
it up,
to happen, and then just go because it should be a bag of tokens, really.
Yeah.
Or they just change the order on the print board for the printing. I'm enjoying it. I've looked forward to the D&D one and mixing that in and seeing how that goes. I think that's the type of thing that is going to be more accessible to get to the table with, definitely with Logan. Logan loves some of the monsters from D&D. He loves going through the monster manual. And I think that's going to be quite cool to do and to see how they do the puzzles, which I think is really impressive.
Against the Tarask.
Yeah.
But what are the monsters? Now I'm intrigued. What are the monsters in
There's
the
got to be a
version,
Beholder, surely. Cause that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe some Illithid?
Nice, yes, the Mind Flayer.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Right, based on the cover.
Right.
I mean,
Orcs.
Beholder, yeah. We haven't got any of the others.
Oh. What about an Umber Hulk?
No.
Oh. An orc or a hobgoblin of some description?
No, that's quite generic.
What about Andy's all-time favourite monster?
Oh, the
A lich.
A lich, yes. A lich would be pretty hard to kill.
You're going to have a dragon, surely. It's quite obvious.
It's in the name.
Yeah, that should have come more readily to us.
Yeah.
So looking at the cover, it is a beholder, a dragon, a displacer beast, and a mimic.
Of course, yes.
Pretty standard tropes there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the displacer beasts seem to feature artwork-wise on a lot of random D&D stuff that comes up. I can't remember what it was I was looking at recently, and that was like the kind of image of choice where I would have thought, like you say, a dragon would have been more obviously chosen.
But I think the Displacer Beast has a fairly significant sequence in the D&D movie, doesn't it? So if you've seen the movie, you'll remember the Displacer Beast. I wouldn't say it's the most...
one of the original...
Oh, really?
Well, I don't know. It's one of the oldest D&D creatures. Yeah, I mean, mid-1970s probably. That's first written.
Those big
it's one of the
purple
classic
dog-like
ones, yeah.
things, isn't it?
Yeah, with the
it's the
tail.
like a six-legged panther with the
That's
tentacles.
The one. Yes.
Now, Horrified Greek Monsters, again, that was sent to us by Ravensburger, so thank you very much for that review copy, guys. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next ones.
Have a lot of Ravensburger games in this household.
They're good. A lot of them are good. I still have my copy of Scotland Yard. I quite like Scotland Yard. It's kind of a simple version of Fury of Dracula. Same sort of idea, except it's a lot smaller and easier and simpler and based in London rather than Europe and doesn't take 4 hours to play.
Right, shall we do some questions?
Yes.
Right.
Well, should we start with the linked one then, shall we?
Yeah.
So, James McCann asks, which convention has the best food and which convention has the worst food?
Until last year, I'd have said Airecon.
Both. Now they've got both awards.
Actually, it is Airecon now. This year is it the worst and the best? I don't know. None of them have really particularly foul and terrible food, really, that I've been to anyway.
Well, Airecon. Last time I went to Airecon, I would say best food. I would actually say Expo is actually kicking a little. He's doing quite well with that because they put the food trucks outside the Hilton.
Yes. Yeah.
So you've got all the food trucks out. I know, admittedly, getting food inside the convention centre is a bit depressing. It's like buying food at a service station, isn't it? Yeah. But you can go a little bit further afield. You've got Resorts World across the pond, quite literally.
Have a nice steak dinner.
Yeah, I mean, the Japanese fried chicken place is actually really good.
The Vietnamese street food. Oh, I'm looking forward to that this year. Forgotten about that.
Yeah.
But the worst convention food experience I think I had was when I went to, what was it called? Epic Lan
in Warwick, yeah.
Rory. It was in a hotel, right? And it was just in like the ballroom of a hotel, pretty small convention. And it was like, only food, you're not allowed to bring food in. They had some snacks and crisps and cans of pop. But the only food you could buy was from the hotel itself. And I bought a jerk chicken meal, and it was like the thick end of 20 quid.
Yeah.
And it was an average sized portion. And for jerk chicken, I think they'd shown it the chili peppers on the shelf.
All right.
And I think the salt was still in the cupboard. It hadn't been seasoned.
The chef had just explained what salt was to the meal while it was cooking.
So it was just a bare chicken breast.
Yeah.
Well, there was a sauce. It just didn't taste as much.
Out of the jar. Yeah.
Well, no, I reckon some poor bastard had cooked it because it was a really high-end, thinking itself high-end hotel.
Yeah.
But it was, as I said, it was like, I think it was like something like 16 or 18 quid or something like that. And I remember eating it and thinking, all this has done has filled me. There's no enjoyment of actually eating it. And then
filled you with
10
rage.
minutes later, 10 minutes later, somebody walks in, having gone to the McDonald's across the road.
Yeah. And then 10 minutes after that, someone walks in with 3 Domino's pizzas. They just had delivery. That strictly no food from outside sources is to be eaten. And people just wandering through after we've spent 20 quid on lukewarm food. Yeah, so.
Airecon this year was like that. They did put their foot down about bringing food in, so I went across the road to the pizza place, had a pizza, and sat outside in defiance, just eating this pizza by the door.
Yeah.
Smearing it on the window.
Yeah, I do the same.
Well, I could have bought a pizza in the venue by Matchams, I think the venue owners are called, and I think it was about 12 quid or 13 quid for a pizza, and they were middling to depressing, whereas I could go across the road for 8, and it was delicious.
When we went to Airecon last year, that brewery across the road,
Cold Bath Brewing,
which also did dirty street food as well.
Yes, they did. The Japanese food there is really good.
That was really good.
Yes, it is, and they do the bar as well. That's in the convention centre, so they're allowed to. So they do the beer that's in there. So
nice.
All of the beer I said I was drinking there was from Cold Bath Brewing, and yes, we may have parked up and played our game of Galactic Cruise next to the bar for convenience.
It's not like you, Andy.
No, I know. No, I don't usually drink.
Now that my embargo on having a social life is gradually being lifted, I'm quite looking forward to all of this dirty street food, conventions, and just generally playing board games, let alone podcasting about it.
You should. It's good fun. It's not good for the waistline, but it is good for the soul.
Well, our canteen's now active at my workplace, and so I'm currently having 2 main meals a day because it's really cheap and it's really nice, and I can't resist.
It is
so
good
weak.
Food. So fry up in the morning, dirty lunch, nice.
That's it, and then eating my meal, and then all the shit the kids didn't eat either. So yeah, I'm well stocked for eating lots of stuff at conventions.
Right then, John, since you haven't been on for a while, pick us a question from the list.
Question. Dave. It feels like the question with a new game is now not is it good, but will it click? And how the hell do you review a game to help someone know that? That is a tricky one to answer.
No, and you don't. No.
I think if you're listening to this podcast, you already know what sorts of games we like. And so if we review something and say it's good, you've probably got a pretty good idea for what stuff does click and doesn't click with us. And therefore, maybe that matches up with your own expectations, or not, as the case may be.
I would like to think, I don't know if we actually achieve this, that we all explain why we do and don't like a game, and you can work out our general tastes from listening to us and work out which person your taste more aligned with.
That's what I was getting at.
You should all say this, because I had a couple of conversations actually at Airecon, where I was approached by a couple of listeners who were very complimentary. So thank you. I think his name was Ryan. I'm very terrible with names. Ryan was very complimentary. He apparently my voice carries. You could hear me down the end of the hall. But came over.
There's no apparently about that, Andy.
Science fact.
But he was very complimentary. He had a good natter, and he does say that it all comes across very well. And I do say obviously we do try to make it sound like a pub chat. Now he'd had a few beers at this point. He was very chatty, but and to be fair, so would I.
I was going to say, I'm sure you weren't at all.
Actually, no. I think this was on the Sunday, so I was actually sober because I was about to drive. But no, he's very, very complimentary, and he does say that it does sound like obviously that we are having a conversation, which obviously we are, and it does sound like the intended four guys in a pub kind of having a chat, but. He does appreciate, and he's not the only person to say this, that we all do have our own taste in games. Now, obviously, there's a bit of overlap, in various areas, but it is nice to know that, and one new listener as well was that I sort of explained this, that we have our different opinion, because not only does obviously we're all different people, but also it generates chat. It's quite good when we disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes you think about different aspects of the game.
Exactly.
Which is why I think this podcast is so good. It's because
one of many reasons.
Well, it's because there's so many of us. Because there's 5 of us.
4.5.
4.5. Is that because you're not here often, or because you're short? Which one is it?
If you add me and Sid together.
So it's 3 in 2 halves, is what you're saying.
We're each about 3/4 of a human, so between us. I guess you could say there's 4, but only me or Sid can be at a thing at a time. I don't know how it's happened, but almost always recently, either me or Sid turns up to something.
It's never both of you. I think we are very subjective in our reviews. I think we acknowledge there's no such thing as an objective review, and we don't
exactly.
We don't hold back either. If we don't like something for a game, we'll say so, and we'll probably have to justify why we feel that way. Whether you agree or not is up to you. Equally, we don't care. This is your opinion. It's your opinion. But yes, I like it.
That was also pointed out as well that one of our strengths, one of our many strengths, is that we do justify our critique. Mm-hmm. We're not just here ranting and raving. We do justify. We do offer a lot of hopefully constructive criticism. Sometimes we can make it better by doing this or whatever it is, but we do justify why we do or don't like a game. So again, I think that it does set us apart, hopefully, from other podcasts. They are available though. But to answer Dave's question, is it good? Well, I mean, we've said Galactic Cruise is all right, I suppose. So yeah. It's all right. Will it click? I think John's right there. It very much depends on what you like, and then you find one of us that you kind of align with, and that'll probably tell you what you like or what you don't like. Job done.
But I would say as well the click thing is a bizarre one, because especially if we've been sent a review copy of a game, we will play it multiple times just in case we didn't understand the click, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
For some reason, Great Western Trail does not click with Rory. I don't understand why.
No, he's wrong.
No. I think Great Western Trail is a good game. It just doesn't click with me. Yeah. I just don't get it. Like I think Steve, you've quite famously said that Seven Wonders Duel doesn't click with you. It's a game I just don't get. Like Lost Ruins of Arnak as well. I've played that. We've just finished the game on Board Game Arena and had a little bit of a rant about it. I just don't get it. I could teach the game. I know how to play the game. I just don't get how to make the things work, to do the things to get the points. And I just feel like I'm always floundering.
In a shocking revelation for a second time in a podcast, I actually agree with you, Rory. Now, I know how to play Arnak, and I did quite well at it, but I just don't think it's very interesting. So it doesn't click with me either, for a slightly different reason, admittedly, but I don't get why everyone went nuts for it either. At the other end of the spectrum, I distinctly remember Steve and I really, really enjoying that sort of mini Cthulhu game that I can never remember the bloody name of. It was a small one, card-based.
Oh, Final Hour.
That's the one. It really clicked with you and me, and it was terrible, and it did really badly, but you and I really enjoyed it.
At the risk of getting back to the question, I think Dave...
talking about?
Dave,
it's not what this podcast is about at all.
You've been way far too long, John.
I know. Standards have slipped. But Dave was asking, how the hell do you review a game to know whether a game will click with someone? And the answer is we don't know whether it's going to click with someone, but we can identify whether it clicks with us, and that's the bit we can identify.
Yeah.
So other people can at least say, well, I know that John's got excellent taste in games, and therefore if he likes that game, why is everyone screwing their faces up?
Because it's a complete lie.
Hey, my tastes have changed. No longer am I a light board gamer. I'm dabbling my toes in the darker stuff. The dry, boring Euros of old are no longer dry and boring, it turns out. In fact, what was it we played? We played Agricola, and there was another one as well.
Wow.
Root in the office. This time I actually played it for myself, not Laura playing and winning for me. But then I went back to playing, because we've got a selection of board games in the office. I went back to playing, what's it called? Robo Rally and Space Space as it happened, just because they were there. And it was like, these games sort of feel a little bit empty now. Robo Rally in particular, I was like, I'm kind of bored playing this. I have. That's the worst thing I think I have joined you. It's happened.
Heavy Euros are the way forward.
I mean, it is a fascinating thing about how your taste in games progresses. I do think it's a weird hobby in that what you actually play, and I've seen this with a lot of people, actually progresses to more and more complex things. And you occasionally dip back to the light thing, but we're talking about Galactic Cruise. Would I have loved Galactic Cruise when we recorded the first episode of this podcast? And I don't think I would have. I think I would have found it too complicated.
I distinctly remember, when we played Ava Roma the first time, Steve, and it basically broke us. I introduced that now to fairly new gamers because it is just very straightforward middleweight stuff. Honestly, it's really not that complicated. It's just a basic worker placement with a nice twist. Now, you can add extra stuff to it, but at its whole, it's just put a thing down, do a thing, get some money or buy a card. That's it. And it broke us the first time. This was, nearly 10 years ago. It's insane. And now I'm looking at Lacerda going, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, tastes definitely change.
I love this question from Colin. We all love a good rulebook and hate a bad one, but what is the best size for them?
Physically.
Depends on the game.
What's the best size for
them? No. The box size one. Right, the one where you get the standard, what I call the standard
30 by 30
to ride box size, 30 by 30, and they get the rule book which fits into that exactly. Yeah,
stupid.
That's
size.
The worst size in the world.
It is because it's unwieldy.
You can't flip through it. The Galactic Cruise, we'll bring it back to that. And then the Galactic Cruise rulebook has got a linen finish. It's absolutely luxurious.
Very nice, yes. It's lovely.
It's like buying the really expensive toilet paper. It really is.
Don't use it for that. Really.
No.
Soft to the touch. It's lovely. It's delightful.
But that's an A4.
Ish,
and it's weird how that is so much easier. I mean, it might be American letter for all I know, actually, rather than A4, but it's close enough. But it's so much easier to actually flick through that at the table. Whereas that 30 by 30 square rule book, they're such a pain in the arse.
Do you know what's even worse? You can get you get the rule book that fits in the box, 30 by 30. That's fine because you can understand it fits in the box. I can kind of understand the logic behind it, but a lot of the Lacerda games have that size of rule book, and those boxes are not 30 by 30. It's all like big long stretch things. They could have done anything they wanted, and they didn't, and it's really irritating.
Well, Colin agrees with you that 30 by 30 is the worst, but he's also saying that an index is always good and a glossary so you can find out what connected means when you're playing Age of Innovation.
Yes.
Yeah. You want a content so you know what's in the box and if there's anything missing. You want a good setup with some diagrams to say this is what you put here in the number 3, like A, B, C, all of that. You want a good description of each component.
Which links nicely back to that contents thing, because there's nothing worse when reading the description of setup and it goes, and now set up the adventure tokens.
What the hell are they?
Which one the freaking adventure
exactly
tokens?
Right, yeah. To be fair, Eagle Griffin have got this nailed. They're really good for that.
The setup should include where in the box it lives, like arrows in the box. If it's a complicated game...
Oh, yeah.
That only works on a decent insert, John. Most of the time you sling the insert and just have baggies. So that argument falls apart.
Well, not if it's got a decent insert, which is another good requirement for a good game.
Absolutely, yes. But a good rule book. I think the book style. But then again, I mean, if you look at all the De Vere games, they have really good size of rule book. They've all been recently. So like White Castle, Salton Sea, they're all good rule books.
They're all roughly the same size as the box, but the boxes are all quite small as well.
Yes,
yeah,
but they're all quite well formatted as well.
Yeah.
They're easy to leaf through. I mean, they give you sort of 6 different rule books, obviously one for each language, so 5 of them get slung in the bin straight away, which is a slight waste of paper, but never mind.
Well, it's only a waste of paper. Well, I suppose waste of paper for everybody, actually, because everybody's going to throw away all the languages that are their own.
5 rule books, yes, exactly.
But then Colin does go on, just to round us off. He says, damn, I'm starting to get into a rant. Need a relaxing stroll around Dunelm to relax.
There is no such thing as a relaxing stroll around Dunelm.
You try going around it with kids.
Exactly.
It's even worse.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, put it down. That's a really big stat. No, just... Don't eat it, Amelia.
Which pillow should we get? I don't care. I just don't care. Can we get this one? No, it's the wrong colour. Why did you ask me then?
Going back to coupling now. Sofa parasites.
Sofa parasites, that's it. Yes, they are awful things. The first thing you do when you sit down on a sofa is move them out of the way. Anyway, thank you, Colin, for putting me in a rant.
Doesn't take much.
It doesn't.
It takes a lot more than it used to, but yes.
Do you want another rant?
Oh,
No.
go on, Steve.
What is the game you're least looking forward to, or is the least exciting sounding in 2025?
Ooh, I don't know.
From Mark Campbell Helm.
I
Sorry, Mark, if I've pronounced that wrong. From Mark.
Nailed it, Steve. Perfect. Chef's kiss.
I don't know, because we tend not to look for shit games. I mean, we discover a few now and again by mistake, but...
Ask us again when we get a bit closer to looking at through all the stuff that's at Expo.
No, because
always look for stuff we're interested in.
Yeah, we always we didn't even do the Andy's Brown list that he wanted to do in...
No, Steve refuses to let me do the Brown list, because apparently it might be upsetting.
Well, now the listeners are asking for it, so...
Exactly.
Well, no, I'll tell you. I can tell you which one I'm least excited by. I'm not excited by Lisbit by Finspan.
Okay, yeah.
It's a good book.
I like Wingspan. I know the Restless podcast doesn't like it, but I don't think I need any more games in it.
I quite like it, but I agree. I've seen people play Wormspan, and I mean, it did look a bit different, but yeah, I don't think we need a third one.
I'm completely indifferent to whichever one it is. All of them, actually, to be honest. No, I've just seen. I've been focusing on the things I'm excited about for 2025. So the new Ark Nova Sanctuary, I'm excited for that one, and
it's good that there's enough new exciting games that we don't need to focus on the dross. It's like it's not a slow news week.
Apparently, Hyperspace is coming out in 2025. I'll believe that when it happens.
Hyperspace. I've not heard of that.
Hyperspace. Right, to put it into context. Right, this dates it. Right.
Here we go.
Hyperspace is a Peterson's game, Eclipse / Twilight Imperium Space 4X game.
Okay.
Right. The Kickstarter launched, and Paul Grogan did a demo of it at the City of Games convention.
Oh my god!
Whoa,
that was some time ago.
That was
2018, 2019?
Something like that. Yeah. God.
So yeah, that shows. Apparently, that game is coming out this year. I will believe it when I see it. Anyway. I think we've talked nonsense for long enough, and you, dear listener, have put up with us for this amount of time, so thank you very much for listening. We have been Polyhedron Collider. Please give us a review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. It does actually help us get up the algorithm. Speaking of the algorithm, we are on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, BGG Guild 2726. Also, don't forget to check out our sponsors, Kienda. There is a link in the show note to get you a juicy discount on your board games you might fancy. And let's be fair, we've talked about some juicy board games today. You might want one of them. But until next time, happy gaming.
Ta-ra.
See you later. See you later.
Bye-bye. He says ta-ta, doesn't he?
Does he?
Yeah, it says ta-ta.
It says cheerio, doesn't it?
Should we try that again?
What does it say at the end?
I don't know. Someone played back an old episode.
Happy gaming. Then what do you say, Andy?
I say ta-ra.
Ta-ra. Then he says cheerio. Then I say bye-bye. Yeah.
There you are.
I'm trying to remember what I used to say.
Do you want me to just cut in one from a previous episode?
You can do.
I'm still recording, so this is just gold.
No, this is post-outro music stuff, this.
Just fade out to the black.